All right. Money is on my mind indeed, always. This is Financial State of Minds, and I am your gracious host, Darrin Harvey, aka the Money Counselor. And this is the show where we help you get to that bag, manage that bag, and grow that bag as best as possible as we discuss financial and business literacy, anything to do with money and anything to do with motivation, you guys. Yes, so we're just going to jump straight into this episode. So I want to open up this episode with a question. If you have the money, any lump sum of money, let's just say, let's start with 5 figures. Would you invest into the stock market or would you invest into real estate? The old age question in the world of investing. These two titans have been going at it for years and people have been discussing it. People will continue to discuss it. But I just want you guys to ponder for a second. If you just had a lump sum of money, imagine you got a life insurance policy. Maybe you end up getting a trust fund. Heck, maybe you end up winning the lottery. What would you guys invest in if you had to pick one or at least one first? So I'll give you guys my take. I used to be a real estate guy. Absolutely. I'm going to make a single episode explaining the whole story soon, but I did house hack and I did revenue over $250,000 over the span of 10 years. I was in one room and over time I ended up renting out the remainder of my house. Even at one point I rented out my garage and I was able to pay all my bills with just the rent money. And it was a great feeling. That was my first time getting what people call mailbox money. I would wake up first of the month and I would just get money into my Venmo, my Zelle, which eventually will lead into my bank account. So, man, it's a good feeling. Man, it's a good feeling, you guys. But I'll just be straight to the point. If I have to pick personally between stocks and real estate, I'm going to go into stocks, baby. Yeah, I had to switch sides. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all my real estate people, for all my house hackers, my flippers. I know you may be upset, but I have switched sides into stocks. I'll tell you why. Why would I pick stocks now? The first thing I would say, and why I tell people to invest in stocks first, if they ask me, is that it's much easier to start with. You can technically invest with as little as a penny. They're called penny stocks, as I'm sure you guys have heard. However, you can really start realistically in the S&P 500, which is the index fund I typically recommend to people, and most people typically recommend. You can start with as few as a few $100s getting started. Now, in the world of real estate, yes, there are creative ways to get into making money, but as far as ownership, there really isn't that many ways into getting into real estate traditionally unless you put down a down payment. At least bare minimum, if you're a first-time homeowner, it's going to be a 5%, maybe as low as 3.5. But I don't even recommend that. But you can get into a home or a condo with as little as 3.5 down. Now, you guys, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area here in California. As you guys, I'm sure know, it is one of the most expensive places to live in the country. So even 3.5% of $1 million, if I do my math correctly, is $35,000. How many people have $35,000 lying around? Now, to be fair, there is a chunk of people who have that. However, with the stock market, you can entry level into there with as few as a few $100s. And that's the first point. Stocks over real estate have a easier and lower bar of entry. And the truth is, I think it's 60% of Americans have a retirement fund of something. So most of you guys are already taking in part into the stock market with your 401k or for 403bs. You already have retirement accounts, and the companies, your employers that you work with, incentivize you to put money in there by what is called an employer match. And I always tell people, if you have an employer match, that is the first thing you should be putting your money into if you're able to invest, because it's 100% ROI guaranteed. no matter if it's a 1% max you put in or as high as I've heard it's like 5 or 6% max. Guaranteed ROI, baby, wins everything when it comes to investing. But why personally, someone who did rent out their home for over a decade switch over from team real estate to team stock market? For me personally, at this point in my life, I value time and I value my bandwidth, my mental bandwidth, meaning that it's just a lot less work to maintain a stock portfolio. Anybody can maintain a stock portfolio. When people ask me, hey, Darrin, you guys make up a number. I've heard it all. $200, $500, $20, $20,000, $50,000. I've heard every single thing, you guys. Hey, Darrin, I have this much money and I'm thinking about investing. What should I put it in? I say the same answer every time. The S&P 500. And if you don't want that, that's fine. Any index fund will work. Any index fund will work. And again, I recommend the S&P 500, but there's other ones like the International Index Fund. But the point is that it's simple. You throw the money in there. Oh, sorry. I'll just give you guys a step. Open up a brokerage account. You've heard of them. They're called Robinhood. They're called Fidelity. They're called Vanguard. One of those, there's tons of others more. Doesn't matter which one. I personally use Fidelity because honestly, that was what was given to me when I had my 401k offered to me. And I've been with Fidelity since. However, I do know Fidelity offers very low management rates when it comes to their index funds and stuff like that. So I have Fidelity. You open it up on your phone, just grab your phone, make a brokerage account, and find their S&P 500 fund. We'll continue to use S&P 500 for this example, and throw whatever money you can afford that you won't miss into that fund. And that's it. And I'm, again, using that for example. But if you want to do single stocks, go ahead and buy some Apple. If you want to do some other stuff, I don't care. The whole argument, my point though, is it's that simple. It's that freaking simple to invest. That's it. When it comes to buying property, oh God, it's a process. First off, the hardest part, in my opinion, is getting the down payment. Getting the down payment is probably the most challenging part. But then you have to make sure your credit score is right. So if you guys are walking around thinking you're going to buy a house and you have a 600 credit score or 650, first off, you most likely don't have $50,000 lying around if you have a credit score of 650. But if you manage to somehow do that, you probably still couldn't qualify because your credit score is low. So you have to make sure your credit score is right. You got to make sure you have the down payment. And the third factor before you just even get qualified is to make sure you have a high enough income. And the formula is the income to debt expense ratio that they use when you qualify for your loan. This episode is not about how to buy a house, but that's just the start. That's just the start. You got to have those three before you even qualify to borrow the money to invest into a house, unless you're trying to buy it outright. So that reinforces my point of the barrier entry and the simplicity that the stock market has over real estate. Now, let's just say, Darrin, I'm a big baller. I got a life insurance policy. I won the lottery. I got a tremendous first check for $1 million, whatever, some crazy way where you got a windfall of money and you can just buy a house in cash like that. Cool. Let's just say you bought $1 million house out here in the Bay Area and you wanted to rent it out and you get to just keep all that money. There's no overhead. Your tenants pay the overhead. Your tenants even find a way to pay the property taxes. You just have the money like that. Well, you still are the landlord and you still have to deal with all the headaches that come with the landlord. And you guys, I will make that episode where I explain all the headaches that can come when you directly are the landlord. That, honestly, I'm going to just tell you guys straight up, the number one reason why at this point in my personal life, I'm going to choose stocks is I don't got to deal with tenants. I don't got to deal with the headache of being the landlord and owner of a property. Now, I hear what you guys are saying over there, somewhere back over there. Somewhere I hear the noise, somewhere, I don't know. But I hear the noise, you guys. Darrin, you can just delegate that all to property management. Darrin, you could delegate it to someone you trust. Darrin, you can delegate it to whoever. And that's true, you guys. I'm not going to dismiss that. If you hire a property management individual or team, you can delegate up to 99% of that work, and you don't have to worry about that. Now, at the end of the day, though, you still have to manage or oversee the property manager or the team and make sure that you're doing something right. And at the end of the day, the onus is still on you, the landlord, for owning the property. So if something goes wrong where the fire breaks out or an earthquake happens or criminal activity happens in your house, I'm not saying that that's common, but I'm saying that it's possible. You have to deal with that. Yes, maybe property management deals with most of it, but you're going to have to deal with that headache indirectly or directly, no matter what. Again, I can't stress it enough. Let me just start to close it out with this point. You guys, at this point in my life, I'm 36 years old. I have a lady. I have her son that I care for. I have many other things. You guys know I'm a financial coach. I'm a speaker. I am trying to open up this nonprofit. I do a lot. I'm busy, and everybody's busy, but I'm a busy man. My time is extremely valuable, and most importantly, my mental bandwidth is extremely valuable. I simply don't want to deal with things that I don't have to deal with. That is my main reason why I would go and I have switched over to team stocks, is because it is simple. Once I throw the money, that's it. I get paid my dividends. That's it. I'm done. If I want to sell the stocks off, I get my money. And you go in the app, you sell it. That's it. If I want to borrow against my stocks, I hit up Fidelity. That's it. That's simple. It really is that simple. And I think I've named 3 reasons, but let me guys give you the 4th reason, and honestly, one of the most important reasons why I have switched from team real estate to team stocks. You guys, you make more money in stocks. It's that simple. You make more money in stocks. So I will give you guys a real life example. Let's just slightly tweak some things, but most of this information is really happened. My parents bought the home that I was in for 33 something years in November of 1993. The home cost $220,000. So that's it. $220,000 for a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, 2,000 square foot home. Now, let's just say my parents had that money and they could have bought that house in cash. And that's it. They just lived in it. That's it. Or heck, I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say they had that money and they rented it out to a family. Now, at that time, mortgages were, I believe, around like $1,200 to rent, $1,100, $1,300, around there. It was what it cost was to rent the house in that time. Okay, but let's just keep it simple. $220,000 was the value and the cost of that house in November 1993. If you have thrown that same amount of money into the S&P 500 in November of 1993, $220,000 into the S&P 500, you would today have over $6 million, you guys. You heard me right. I think the exact number is anywhere between $6,100,000 to around $6,200,000. That's the amount of money that if anybody had to throw in back then, you would have that money now. And let me tell you guys something. The house is not worth $606 million now. It's not close. Now you can make the argument, well, Darrin, if you had bought the house scot-free, the house would be worth a little over $1 million. You could have made hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars over if you rented out the house over due time. I hear you. I'm not saying you wouldn't be winning if you don't invest in real estate. But what I'm saying is the numbers are in. This isn't projections. This is if you had done it. You would have $6 million over the course of 35 or 33 something years if you had invested $220,000 into the S&P 500 compared to that same house would be worth around $1.3 million, or give or take a few $100,000. You see the difference? 1.3 million, 6 million plus. Which one would you pick? Oh, and keep in mind, you don't have to worry about overhead, utilities, the house messing up, the rooftop being worn down, all property taxes, none of that. If you live in it, you got to deal with it directly. If you rent it out, your tenants might wear everything down, the carpet. I've done it all because I've been a landlord. I fixed everything up multiple times. You didn't have to do all of that if you invested in the stock market, and you would have made more money. You would have made way more freaking money. So I'm going to wrap it up around there, you guys. But those are my reasons why I have switched from team real estate to team stock market. Now, I want to emphasize this very clearly. If you have done the work to be debt free, have an emergency fund, and you're investing, bro, you're winning. Congratulations. I want to give you a round of applause. You are winning. This is not about shaming people who do real estate. I did real estate for 10 plus years and I don't regret it. I revenued over $250,000, and Lord, I needed that $250,000 when I was getting it. There is nothing wrong with real estate. I want to make that self clear. There are a lot of people who make fabulous careers. They've made millions upon millions of dollars investing in real estate, and salute to you guys. No problem with that. But for me personally, as a 36-year-old blind entrepreneur, speaker, all that stuff, I need something that I can manage with little to no time commitment. And that is stocks, you guys. There are other forms of investments that you can do that is essentially doesn't cost any time. But I just wanted to have this fun little discussion. And I want you guys to be thinking or I hope you guys are thinking about what I'm saying. And again, this is not to convince you guys to do whatever. Really, I hope you guys are just investing, period, making your money grow, period, for whatever reason. Hopefully to leave your kids something. Hopefully for you to buy that Ferrari that you want. I don't care what the reason is. As long as your money is growing and working for you, you are winning in this world of economics. Because what are the statistics? Half of America has like credit card debt. 2 out of 3 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Just all this financial stuff that makes it hard out there. And it is hard out here. I'm not claiming that times are easy right now. But again, just a fun little conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed. Really think about it. Ponder it. What would you do? Open it up. Leave it in the comment. DM me. Interact. I don't care how. But what would you do? Let's just have fun. You have $1 million. Someone just gives you $1 million life insurance policy. I don't care how. But you got $1 million. How would you invest it after hearing all this? Would you still be team real estate like I used to be? Or would you switch sides and join us in the world of the stock market side? Either way, it's all fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please reach out, book me for a coaching session if that's something you're interested. Check out financialstateofminds.org, financialstateofminds.com to learn more about my services and what I do. But until then, you guys, peace, kings and queens. I am out of here.